The Actor and the Prop Table. He always locked the door. People would say, "Why is it always locked?" At 6:55 p.m., the announcement from the dressing room tannoy rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen of the company, this is your half-hour call. Half an hour, please." And, addressing his reflection before the illuminated mirror, he began the studious, if not expert, application of his own makeup. He preferred not to have visitors during that precious 35 minutes before the performance, and he seemed to remember putting a polite written notice on the door to that effect. But no one paid the slightest attention to it. They'd simply knock and barge in. And that was why he locked the door. Visitors unsettled him. They would always ask him how he was or if he needed anything, as if he were lying in some hospital bed, or attempt to begin mundane, everyday conversations as if to purposely divert his state of mind from the urgency of the matter in hand. He liked his preparation for the play to be gentle and stressless, although the corridor outside was alive with distant laughter. He was a world away from it. When the makeup was finished, he dabbed at his face with a tissue and rose to change into his costume, the fresh brown shirt with the collar stud, the cayenne tie, and the light grey woolen suit which he wore for the opening soliloquy of the play. When he was dressed, he settled in his armchair so that his costume would begin to feel more like his own everyday clothes, lacking only his newspaper and spectacles to complete the character. But those he preferred to collect after the beginner's call from the prop table on the stage-level corridor. He could have had these items brought to his dressing room, but then that would involve visitors, needless conversations, and unnecessary knocking on his door. With solicitous delicacy, he took time to glance at a few first-night cards, as well as 2 telegrams, and 5 minutes later, at 7:10 precisely, he accurately predicted another announcement over the dressing-room relay. "Ladies and gentlemen of the company, this is your quarter-hour call. 15 minutes, please." At the 5-minute call, he would always refresh his memory with a soft recitation of the first paragraph of his opening speech. Just the first paragraph. But for now, it would be pleasant to look at his greeting cards, whilst, from the little loudspeakers, the soft murmur of the audience entering the auditorium had a soothing, soporific effect. Blinking his eyes, he became aware that he must have nodded off. The cards and telegrams had slid from his lap to the floor. He checked his watch. 7:27. He had clearly slept through 2 tannoy announcements from the deputy stage manager, either of which would surely have woken him. The first at 7:20 for the 5-minute call, and the second at 7:25 for "Beginners to the stage, please." But the hum of the tannoy had disappeared. There would be no show relay. He must report that. Surely someone would have come and woken him. 7:28 p.m. precisely. The curtain wouldn't rise until 7:30, more or less precisely. No time now, though, to run through the opening few lines. Luckily, he was ready, not exactly late, but cutting it fine to say the least, and he knew that he must make allowance for the possibility of a disapproving glare from stage management when he collected his spectacles and newspaper from the prop table. Trotting guiltily out of his dressing room and down the stairs, he reached the corridor only to find that the prop table wasn't there. In his haste, he was piqued as to why no one had bothered to tell him why it had been moved. The sign on his door might indeed discourage visitors, but surely a tannoy announcement could have been made. He was indignant. He should have been told. He looked about him. There seemed to be no one to ask. No fellow cast members, no one from wardrobe, not even a member of stage crew. Aware of the perspiration on his back and his independence compromised, he decided to seek out the deputy stage manager at the prompt desk and ask as to the whereabouts of the prop table and, more importantly, his spectacles and newspaper, without which the opening soliloquy would be impossible. There seemed to be so little light backstage, and, edging his way to stage left, he only found himself staring at a prompt desk long disused, with disconnected wires reaching out like desperate fingers from an almost impenetrable network of cobwebs, and he smelled the urine of mice.